All right, let's get into our second big story now. Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has assured Nigerian entrepreneurs of government's determination to work with them through the Ministry of Trade and Investment in making their businesses a success.
Now, with the United States of America getting a new president, what lies ahead for the bilateral relations between both countries? State House correspondent Maria Olashende filed in this report.
The Nigerian-American Chamber of Commerce promotes bilateral business between Nigeria and America and is responsible for this gathering of entrepreneurs here to showcase their made-in-Nigeria products. Among products on display are wheat flour, garri, fish, groundnuts, body cream, and deodorants, well packaged for the final consumer. The Vice President, who is really impressed by all he sees, is also happy many people are investing in agric-business.
They'll be able to export in large quantities, and we have an advantage now with the depreciation of the Naira as a major export advantage. Of course, as you know, when your currency is weak, you have an advantage in export. So I think that we must take advantage of that, and several of these local producers are taking advantage of the weak Naira now, and they're able to export at very competitively.
We've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who are ready for export. Some of them are indeed exporting. We're looking at packaging, we're looking at machines, we're looking at access to finance, and so many different opportunities like franchises for SMEs.
The organizers on their part believe finance for investment is a major challenge for the entrepreneurs.
You can see a lot of product here, very bright ideas, export-ready products, but what is the problem? Access to finance for some of the entrepreneurs. So that is the gap that we're trying to bridge. And especially now that you know the government itself is talking about diversification of non-oil. And this is the time, and that's why we've brought this in.
USAID is responsible for all of these companies that are in this room today. We've been working with them to help them attract finance, to export their products overseas, to improve their food and safety standards inside their factories so that they can meet international standards.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who agreed that one of the bottlenecks of the business is financing of the products, assured them that he will be working with the Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment to find a lasting solution. Maria Olashende, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, well, joining us now is Professor and former Director General, Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, Bola Akinterinwa. Good morning. Thanks for joining us on the show. It's good to have you again.
Good morning, Professor.
Okay, so we're looking at U.S.-Nigeria relations, and this is against the backdrop of the elections, that's coming up in another 24 hours or thereabout. In another 48 hours, we should know who the next president would be. Yes, the whole world is interested in what is going on in the U.S. now, talking about the presidential election. Nigerians on the streets everywhere. But do we really have an official position towards who, should or, Nigeria might be tilting towards in terms of who should emerge the next president? And if we don't, how is this likely to affect our relations going forward?
Yeah, thank you. Your question is very interesting. It is very difficult to say precisely what the policy attitude of the government of Nigeria is. But what we can say is that for now, I think our policy attitude is a neutralist one, in the belief that at the end of the day, whoever wins will normally be protecting the American interest. Whether it is Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, at the end of the day, there is no way any American president will be out to be defending African interests, Nigeria's interests. So our policy attitude for now is a neutralist one, waiting for whoever will eventually stay in the White House. But there is another way of looking at it based on the other question implicit in your main question, which is that if we do not have any particular
position,
attitudinal approach, then who do we really follow? What should we be doing? Under normal circumstance, any black president in any part of the world who, for whatever reason, sits down to give support to Donald Trump must have been misguided, induced into error. Why? Because the policy posture of Hillary Clinton appears to be more acceptable, consistent with the aspirations of the black peoples of the world. Donald Trump is a major obstacle in global international relations. In fact, is going to be a disaster at the level of Nigeria-US relations in the future, for obvious reasons. Obvious reasons. One way of looking at the US election, you said the whole world, everybody is focusing attention on the election. You are right, and you cannot be more right. You see, the issue is that the US election is pointing to one very serious danger in international relations. And this is the observation. What Donald Trump stands for, if you look at it, if you look at the elements, the pillars of his policies, they are unnecessarily antagonizing the maintenance of international peace and security. One, if you look at his stand on Syria, if you look at his stand at the level of a US relationship with Russia, if you look at his stand on relationship with the immediate neighbors of the United States,
like Mexico, yeah,
precisely, you now see that at the end of the day, he's very much to be more belligerent than a pacifist. Now, the American people supporting him, if you look at the percentage, I cannot imagine more than 60% of the American people supporting him. The implication is that the American people that are known to be a world leader, you see, most of them now supporting discriminatory policies, describing the black people in a very derogatory manner. Does it mean that this is what the American people of the future, especially under Donald Trump will be? Now, if Americans are known to be a leader, the leadership will be at best meaningless without followership. Nigeria is part of the followership. So does it mean now that the Americans are working towards being an island unto themselves? It's not possible. Leadership is at best meaningless without followership. So in this case, the election is sending a very wrong signal. All right. Now if you take another element, if you look at the issue of relationship between Clinton and Russia on the one hand, Trump and Russia on the other. Russia's Putin did say that if the Americans make the mistake of electing Hillary Clinton, that there will be war. Now, we know quite well that either of the two will be elected, and it is more likely that Hillary Clinton will be elected because the whole world, generally speaking, all right, most countries of the world, the great powers, they are against, the
Trump presidency,
the belligerent policies of Trump. They have been warning. 80% of those people in a survey in Germany against Trump. The French president, François Hollande, made statements to say, look, the election of Donald Trump has the potential of giving right to the far right. That is to say, you know, the far right now, they are the people saying they don't want immigrants, they don't want all this, they are hostile. Any problem in their country, they are always holding foreigners responsible.
Exactly.
Now, since Donald Trump represents all this, that shows that European Union of the future, all right, will as a result of the inspiration from Donald Trump be influenced. So when you look at all these problems,
all right, Professor, we'll come back to you on this. We just have a few minutes before we get into the news update for the time, and then in a subsequent discussion, we'll be having the Public Affairs Officer of the United States Consulate in Nigeria to talk about this. We still have Professor Bola Akinterinwa in the studio. Let's give you some basic information about Nigeria and the United States. Now, the U.S. is Nigeria's greatest trading partner and is undeniably its most important diplomatic partner.
An estimated 1 million Nigerians and Nigerian Americans live, study and work in the United States, while over 25,000 Americans live and work in Nigeria. Now, the first officially recognized contact between Nigeria and the United States was when late Governor Nelson Rockefeller of New York, who later became a vice president of the U.S., represented President Eisenhower at Nigeria's independence ceremonies on October 1, 1960.
Now, the U.S. policy towards Nigeria was initially guided by two key issues. One is containment of communist expansion and the provision of aid and strengthening of bilateral economic ties. Now, we'll come back to giving you all of this information. Let's go on a break now, and then we come back to give you more, so you have a basic understanding of the relation between U.S. and Nigeria, especially considering the discussion we're having right now. Still with us on TVC Breakfast.
Right, here, welcome back. We're looking at U.S.-Nigeria relations going forward. Now, let's quickly bring you this point. Of course, we have Professor Akinterinwa, Bola Akinterinwa, right here in the studio with us. Before we continue with him, let's bring this to you. A cogent point about Nigeria-U.S. relations is the fact that even when political and diplomatic relations were at their worst, economic relations seem to continue unhindered.
Yeah, that's true. Then when diplomatic relations between both countries were strained, we're talking about Nigeria and the United States over the independence of Angola in 1975. Though political relations remained acrimonious, if you have to use the word, but economic relations were left undisturbed by two governments and continued to flourish. Now, even at the height of the June 12, 1993 presidential election in Nigeria, when the United States selectively imposed sanctions on Nigeria, the sanctions did not extend to other crucial aspects of the economy, such as trade in crude oil.
Now, but, after the death of late military head of state, General Sani Abacha, things started to look up. As the transition to democracy progressed, the removal of visa restrictions, increased high-level visits of U.S. officials, amongst other things, paved the way for re-establishment of closer ties between both nations. Now, according to a 2012 U.S. Global Leadership Report, 77% of Nigerians approve of U.S. leadership, 9% disapprove, while 14% are uncertain.
And according to a 2013 BBC World Service poll, 59% of Nigerians view U.S. influence positively, 29% expressed a negative view, while 8% expressed a neutral view. All right. These are perspectives to give you an understanding of the kind of relation that exists between Nigeria and the United States. Don't forget that after now, we'll be having the Public Affairs Officer of the U.S. Consulate in Lagos. We'll talk about that. We still have Professor Bola Akinterinwa with us here in the studio. Now, we officially adopted the American style of election and all of that in 1979. And since then up until now, how much of the elements, how much of that American thing have we imbibed in our electoral process in Nigeria?
For now, I am not aware of any scientific survey of the experiences so far. So whatever I'm going to say is at best based on deductive analysis.
Okay.
The adoption in 1979 of a presidential system was simply to try another system, since we started with a parliamentary system. We thought it was good, but at the end of the day, it led to crisis, conflict, then war. Now, in an attempt to return to democracy, we said, okay, if the parliamentary system has failed, let's try another. We decided on presidential system. Presidential system of government is of two types. We have the full one, the American style. You have the semi-presidential. Now, semi-presidential is what you have in the Francophone world, in France, meaning that you have, it's a mix of parliamentary and full presidential system. Now, in the US, as it is, we have borrowed many good things from it. For instance, in terms of the establishment, election of members of the House. But in terms of institutional gains, yes, there's nothing in the American system that we have not put in place. What the main problem has been is the attitudinal disposition of the politician, of the congressman, all right, House of Reps, you know, the honorable members, and the senators. We have not learned any big deal, nothing, in terms of the individual politicians. But
so the problem really is not even about the style or the institutions in place, but about the practitioners themselves.
Precisely. So there's no way anybody can say we have learned a lot. If you look at the campaigns in America, you look at Donald Trump, you look at Hillary Clinton. Didn't Donald Trump describe Hillary Clinton, this woman, nasty woman? The media carried it. We all saw it live. But look at Hillary Clinton. She didn't take it as any big deal. She just
so
loved him.
that means, of course, would you say then that the American style of democracy, the institution of constitutional democracy that we're trying to copy, is taking a nosedive? If we're to say that America is the beacon that we all want to learn from, all the democratic countries, but let's put that aside. We're looking at U.S. Nigeria relations. As of 2012, U.S. investment in Nigeria was somewhere around $8 billion. I don't know how much it is now. I want to believe it's even more. And based on some of the research we put out there, whatever issues that the U.S. has with Nigeria, the economics or the economy, is never affected. How, to what extent would you say that Nigeria's relationship with the U.S. has been mutually beneficial?
I think it has been beneficial in many ramifications. You see, foreign policy is about management, management of fraud. What do I mean by that? You have a set objective you are pursuing, but you really need to set other tactical policies to attain the objectives. In the process, you tell lies, you try to deceive. For instance, some archival materials were released of recent in the US. One professor in the University of Birmingham came out to say, look, the making of the European Union itself is an American idea. The name, the coinage of euro, was also given in America. All right? Now, when you now try to put the U.S. election in the context of U.S. relationship with the European Union, you now discover that the European Union is more at home with Hillary Clinton. They are staunchly against Donald Trump. Now, if the U.S. was and is still much interested in a united, strong European Union, and then you look at the position Donald Trump is adopting, then you can now begin to see that in the future there will be problem. Now, this fraud that I'm talking about explains the dualism, the dichotomy, all right, in U.S. relationship with Nigeria. Okay. Many countries adopt that dualist approach. France is also a leader. Now, America can condemn, can disagree with Nigeria on political grounds, but they will not allow economic interest, you know, to be sacrificed on the altar of a political disagreement.
All right, Professor Akinterinwa, I must say I'm really enjoying this because you're bringing really enlightenment to what we have in here, but we don't have all the time to. So we hope to maybe bring you in after the election so we can have another dimension to the discourse. Thank you very much, Professor Bola Akinterinwa, for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure being here again.